We return now to a land of high adventure and deadly intrigue, where alien monstrosities roam the wasted red sands of a world that died many, many years ago and begun again. For our would-be heroes of Balak, their time and their struggles in the city of Sails has come to an end. And a new beginning starts with them on a journey across the world in a caravan representing the great merchant houses of the city. House Akasha, House Sereno, House Jarko, and the village of Billary. Their goal is to reach the forest nation of Golg and seek an audience with the terrifying goddess known as Lolali Poi and her oracle Helena. So we begin tonight's story at the end of the caravan's first day of journey. The great dark sun fades over the horizon and a steady wind rasps across the Balakan Peninsula. Its hot breath bears long ribbons of sediment from the Sea of Silt. Dusk settles around our party, leaving the road ahead swaddled in purple shadows and half buried in drifts of plum-colored dust. A short distance ahead, there's a craggy ridge. It forms a wall of black rock that stretches on for miles, so towering that it blots out much of the stars. The trail continues around the mountain, dipping into a narrow canyon surrounded by strange, leafless bushes. At the top of the descent stands what seems to be an immense boulder at first, blocking entrance to the gorge. Its shape resembles that of a seated man, save that it is far, far larger than a man, as large as the gates of Balak itself. Bats swirl and wheel around the monolith's head, silhouetting themselves against the two hay-shrouded moons of Athos. Slowly, very slowly, the figure shifts and begins to rise, sending a flock of roosting dust gulls flying off of its shoulders and into the night. And so we begin. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Dark Sun. Hi. So I want to go around as we begin tonight, and I want to start with everyone introducing their characters again for us, and I want them to imagine where they are in this moment as dusk settles, and you see this figure ahead on the road. And let's begin with Christina. Hi, Christina.
Hello, Donovan.
Hello.
In coming upon my new position of leadership, I have decided to take up meditation. But I can't keep my focus for very long, so I go from meditating to talking to my grandfather, and I have the attention span of a nothing.
And I think your grandfather probably is trying not to interrupt you, but he doesn't know when you're talking to him and when you're meditating, when you're talking to him and when you're meditating. And there's a moment where there's been silence for just a moment, and you hear him gasp. He says, "Oh, what is that? Akasha? Akasha?"
What? Oh. Yes.
Are you able to see that? And he sort of points ahead through the howdah. You're on the back of this mechalot, this large beast. It's like a giant turtle with your house's supplies and your large tent kind of rocking, and it's come to a stop. And he's pointing out through the front towards something on the road.
Yes, grandfather. Let me check it out and make sure that things are in order. What is there?
Is this a new persona that you're trying out for the public, or?
I am a fearless leader, and I have spent much time in concert with myself And I feel that this is the way that I shall speak as the proud leader of these people.
I like it. I like it a lot. If you leave the Howdar, just be careful. Make sure that you're not alone.
Do you think it's too much?
No,
Like, is it a little
no,
much?
I think it's great. I think people will love it. They like
Did
confidence.
you fear me a little bit?
In general, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But that's... I will check it out. I would like to go down and see, grandfather. If we could stop for a moment, I would like to check it out and see if there is any threat to my people.
All right, stay hydrated. And he hands you his canteen of water.
And I replace it with my my canteen of wine.
All right. So you begin to leave the Haldor and climb down this sort of large shell of this beast. It's a well-trained creature. It's still a little awkward climbing down, but there's a few elvish runners at the bottom who sort of offer you a hand up. These are sort of the guards of your section of the caravan, your house, and they're capable of running faster than your beast of burden can move, and they run through the desert endlessly, tirelessly. And they're there to help you down. And as you put your feet into the sand on the road, let's move on and introduce another character. Let's bring in Bill. Hi, Bill.
Hello.
Hello. So please introduce for us your character and where you imagine they are right now, what they're doing.
He just finished a conversation with Dia, but Horsun is a large, middle-aged, lots of smile lines and experience. But he, as this is happening, he is standing next to Dia, looks up inquisitively to see what the commotion was, what the movement were, like the things that flew off, like what the deal is with that. I'm assuming he sees the seated.
Yeah. You see this shape that could almost look like it was part of the landscape. You can't make out the features in the dark. It is some, maybe 200, 250 feet ahead of you in the road, but it's moving. And if it looked like the shape was a seated person, that person is standing and beginning to stretch what looks like two long, large arms outward their sides. There's a little bit of commotion from some of the guards, a little bit of confusion, whispering.
He's going to pardon himself from Dia's presence and bolt forward to the front of the camp. In that process, he's going to stick two fingers in his mouth and issue like a high-pitched whistle. And those that are familiar with Horsun would know that that's what he does when he wants the people that he knows around him. And then approach the front of the caravan to investigate.
All right, and so it is House of Jarko's forces that are responding to your whistle. It's 6 gladiators that are riding crawdloos, which are these sort of two-legged, fast reptilian. They sort of look like ostriches, like lizard-like ostriches with short forearms. And they're riding the crawdloos to catch up with you. Roll me a perception check.
You got it. Solid 5.
Solid. So you do notice Lady Akasha coming down off of her Haldor, being helped down by a number of the elvish runners that are accompanying House Sereno as you race to the front, and the gladiators riding the crawdloos are charging ahead to meet up with you. I do want to bring in Charlie too, since Dia was in the Haldal with Horsun. And hello, Charlie. If you want to introduce your character for us and what they look like right now, and maybe what they're doing in this moment as Horsun quickly excuses themselves and races down the side of the mechalot and towards the front of the caravan.
As Horsun darts away, Dia pulls closer, her wrap over her shoulder. She's dressed in... It's a light fabric, but it's heavily draped over her body and around her blonde hair. She sighs and she tuts. And so it begins. Better see what's going on. But instead of darting forward, she'd like to climb up, because I think we were walking alongside everything. She'd like to try and go vertically up to get a view out of what's ahead, rather than try and beat the traffic and run anywhere.
Yeah.
If that's possible done.
Yeah, go ahead and roll me a perception check. And describe, so you're climbing up this large beast. It's probably 20 feet tall, even though it's longer than it is tall, to get up the shell. If anybody were to witness Dia climbing, what would that look like?
She'd look for an easy handhold, grab onto it, and there's a flex of muscle in her arm, and she'll swing her legs up to get up, as opposed to scrabbling up the side. She'll kind of swing herself and use momentum to climb up in a acrobatic, I suppose, movement. And then I imagine you described it as being kind of long. I imagine she's kind of tightrope walking along this beast to get towards the end, as is safe, not proceeding to stand maybe on its forehead or anything too dramatic, but towards the front of it at least.
All right. What did you get on your perception check?
I rolled a 15.
So from the top of the beast, you're able to see Horsun racing ahead and the House Jarko gladiators that are guarding the caravan charging forward on the backs of their beasts. Catch up. You can see Lady Akasha now down on the road, having left her Haldal aside. And leaning out of the House Jarko Haldal that you've climbed up, this tent, is Taruk, the large, muscular Terry, this ratfolk, who he is the head of House Jarko. And he leans forward and he pulls out this small orb. And it appears to have a bone eye crafted around it. He opens up the eye and it shines out a bright light. Just sort of flashes forward into the dusk. And as it does, just for a moment, looking onward at the end of the caravan, this large shape, you get a flash of what the shape is. It is a giant, almost entirely hairless. It's got ragged clothes that look like they've been patched together from many, many pieces of cloth wrapped around its body. It's holding in one arm this massive club that looks like it might be crafted from a tree, like a full tree trunk. And it kind of holds its hands up in front of its eyes as the light shines right into his face. And in that moment, you can see that there are tattoos marked all up and down the creature, the giant's arm, chest, one right on the side of its neck. Do you speak giant? Is that a language that Dia knows?
That is a language that Dia knows.
Okay, roll me then. Roll me an... Let's call it an Arcana check.
Okay. That's a natural 1, giving me a 2.
All right, so it's definitely written in the giant language, these runes. but they seem nonsensical, like putting together words that wouldn't make any sense, any kind of literary sense. They must have some meaning, but you're not sure what that meaning is at a glance. And it's hard to make out exactly what they are.
The cat did what? She's squinting down and across, and she has this weird feeling in her stomach. I don't think it's a surprise that we've come across something monstrous in this landscape. That was always to be expected to some degree, but so soon and blocking the way, it leaves questions in her mind as she recalls trying to leave the city was enough of a problem very briefly on her way out of her studio. And Don, I'd like to use a feat that I have that gives me a wild talent.
Okay.
And Dia's going to reach out and try and sense if there's been any magic in this area recently. I'd like to use, I think it's called Trail of Destruction.
Yeah, wrote up there in our Roll20. Take a look at it. And so wild talents are something inherent to almost all sentient creatures in Dark Sun. They're inherent psionic abilities, and some people have more, some people have less. Some people train and hone their connection to the will in the way they're psionics, and some people don't. Trail of Destruction, you can determine. Excellent. All right, so as you're casting your sense outward, trying to determine if there has been any specifically defiling magic used in this area within the past day or so, you don't sense any defiling magic. And I would say that with your use of that whatever these runes are, they may not be arcane in nature. They could be druidic. They could be psionic.
Well, that's good at least. She exhales, relieved that there has been none of that dangerous magic used in this area, and that this beast could simply be just going about its business. I say beast, that's probably the wrong term. This very large person is just going about their business. I think she is going to perch, watching, but she's not going to move to advance her position at this point.
All right. Let's go ahead then and go to Merula. Hello, Sam. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi. So just like with the others, let's find out where Merula is right now, what they're doing, and how they might be reacting. Anything you want to introduce about them?
Well, just a couple moments ago, coincidentally, they woke up from an unintended nap and had just begun to sort of clearly start looking out of the held off kind of, oh hey, what's going on, where are we kind of process, and spotting at least a bit of a kerfluffle or an incipient kerfluffle, at least a fluff. They peek their head out and look over to Van, napping, good, and their father, driving, not paying attention, and load up just on knives a little bit, and
Okay.
because this is the first time they've traveled, and they're a touch paranoid of what's going on, and kerfuffle means bandits are going to just like kill everybody. Right?
So when you say load up on knives, how many knives are we talking about here? Yeah.
No.
Cool.
In truth, they have a couple holdout blades, but for the most part, they have a dagger that they use, and that one is metal. They look at a bow, but realize it's their father's and shuffle around to see if they can find their own, but it's packed away somewhere. This is not something that is ready at hand for them. And pull themselves out and sort of sit in the sill of the window to the exterior. So not really having gotten out, but perching a little. Not entirely unlike Dia. Just keeping a lookout, really. Monitoring the incipient fluff.
And maybe when they sit on the window, that's when that light shines from Taruk's, this orb that he's holding. It kind of flashes and shows a little bit more of this shape in the dark ahead. This giant who holds up their hands and blocks their face from the light for a moment. And you can hear a sort of a rumble from the back of their throat that stretches and shakes the ground a little bit. And it's not a gasp of surprise. It's more an exasperated sigh from Merula's father. He says, "This is going to slow us down. I hope they can deal with it quickly." And he lets go of the handle that he uses to kind of guide the mechalot, and just sort of sits back in his chair and puts a unhappy fist on his chin and stares out.
I'd be happy to go and see how things are going.
Are you sure that's wise, Merula? We have people to deal with this sort of thing.
If you think I ought not, if you don't trust me to do so, Father, I'm happy to stay back here.
You can see his face kind of like twist up, and his nose scrunches a little bit. I think he understands. He understands the technique being used here.
Merula has only recently gotten to this. They're not actually practiced at paternal manipulation.
And he sighs, and there's not quite a smile, but there's a little bit of a relaxation that crosses his face a moment later, and he says, "Well, I don't intend to stop you, Merula, if you think that you can contribute to getting us through this faster. I trust you. Just be careful, of course, and remember, there are a number of gladiators you can hide behind down there."
Yes, Father. Of course, Father. And Merula pushes themselves out from when they had sort of been sitting on the perch, and so does a roll to land on the ground, and looks up to the top of the haldar and cocks their head at a little black bird that has been perched up there, who just sort of flies ahead.
Excellent.
First look.
Is there anything that is there any kind of guidance you're giving Corey? Is there anything they're trying to do immediately, or are they just trying to get to up in the front closer?
Yep, they're scouting ahead, taking a look that I think I'm well beyond the range of investigating this in any level of detail. Qua Merula.
Sure. Yeah. Roll me an insight check.
Insight, lovely. 14.
You can see from the eyes of Corey as the bird flies forward. You can see that the giant has stepped out of the light when the light follows, and the giant steps out of the light again, and the light follows, and then it begins to step forward along the road, leaving behind the gorge and slowly approaching the caravan. It hefts the wooden club, over its shoulder, and you get a sense that the giant is ready for an encounter, is ready to fight if it has to, but it's not moving so aggressively that it's charging into an attack immediately. It's the immediate kind of sense that you get as you're flying ahead in through the eyes of your bird. And this is a good time, I think, to bring in Michael. Michael, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce your character and let us know where they are, what they're doing, how we would kind of see them for the first time as this begins to shake down.
Yeah. Ebo Strana is a half-elf from the village of Villery, and he is just on this caravan to perhaps help his village in reputation. What Ebo would be doing is making his way down from Akasha's their caravan, the Sereno caravan, and making his way over to the kind of caravan of Villery, which there's the Korean there, and he's gonna like check on the supplies that they have, and he was planning on relaxing for the rest of the night, and just trying to engage in conversation from the people of Villery.
And so the caravan, the Howdall for Villery, flies the banner, the new banner of the village, with 5 bamboo shoots on its heraldry within a crimson ring, over a white field that's kind of become dusty and sandy and dirty with the day's travel. It's a very simple Howdall compared to the others, and it's guarded by 6 Thry-Kreen. Thry-Kreen are mantoid-like humanoids. They have 4 arms. They have exoskeletons on the outside of their chitinous skin. It makes them distinct, and 2 antennas. They have claws and mandibles, and they generally speak telepathically. It's how they communicate with other people. And these 6 are riding on the back of kanks. And kanks are like buffalo-sized, 6-legged spider beetle sort of creatures that are really good for multiple kinds of terrain travel. And so you have these 6 Thry-Kreen riding along, guarding Villery's supplies, and the leader of them, I think Ebo would know that it's Untak, which is sort of the right-hand bodyguard, very close confidant to Taruk, the head of House Jarko. And the Kank skitters up next to you, and the mandibles of Untak clack 3 times. He doesn't look down to you, but he does speak to you inside your mind. You can hear his voice say, "There is trouble ahead. You should stay safe."
Oh, what type of trouble? Maybe I can assist in some way.
And the other 5 Thry-Kreen ride up, like almost in unison. They're like crisscrossing each other. They move together in a very graceful way, even when they're riding on the back of beasts, to form a line. And all 6 of them, raise 1 arm. And they have 2 spears. They keep 2 arms free, and 2 arms are wielding these spears tipped with obsidian. And they all raise one of their spears using the same arm on each of their bodies forward. And Untak answers, "There is a giant up ahead."
Oh, well,
I don't think giants are usually around here in these areas. Maybe I can go talk to it, or at least from a ways away.
And I have my mind meld ability as one of the ways I can communicate, and I also speak giant. So
Nice.
going to perhaps I just have to be 120 feet away. How far is it away from the head of our, united caravan?
We'll say that at this moment, the giant is 200 feet away, but it's approaching. You can feel every footfall as it hits the sand and the road, shakes the ground, not violently. It's just this gentle vibration that passes through the caravan. The mechalots are starting to stir. They're starting to look uncomfortable as it approaches.
Oh goodness, he's quite large. Okay.
And I'll look over towards Untak, the bodyguard to Taruk.
Can you accompany me as I go try to communicate with our friend over there?
Yes. Climb up. And Untak lowers his spear and bends over, like his lower body doesn't bend, but his upper body bends at an angle that is strange and sharp. And he lowers 2 long arms down to you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to kind of looks like Ebo shouldn't be able to have the strength to kind of hold on and get up, but he does so, albeit maybe a little bit clumsy, but with lots of strength.
Very smoothly pulled up on top of the back of the kank, which is a little uncomfortable to kind of settle on at first, but once it perches its 6 legs up and begins to skitter forward, it's actually a rather smooth ride as you and Untak move ahead. And on the way, everyone's sort of rejoined. We have Horsun at the front. Akasha is heading up to the front as well. Ebo is racing to catch up. And Merula also heading up themselves, or are they just with their bird?
Merula's a little more slowly moving up. Yes.
Okay. And Dia is perched up on the House Jarko Howdall, just kind of watching, right? So Dia, you get a great look at Ebo racing ahead, and you can see everybody moving forward towards the front. And let's say that Horsun and Akasha, you're going to get there first. So there's a moment where the two of you, a couple of the gladiators of House Jarko who are accompanying Horsun, kind of ride up to the front. You can see the heavy footfalls of this giant approaching closer and closer.
As we approach the head of the caravan with the gladiators, he's going to turn and face the gladiators and give a signal that the group of them should split and flank. So the front of the caravan approaching the giant is kind of like a U, or like a man catcher if you're into Renaissance weapons. I don't even know if it's Renaissance, but it is a weapon. I'm not trying to pretend to be smart here. I am not, but it's from something. And then he's going to stand at the in the center-ish area of that U, and ask the gladiators to go further out, so they, would be able to close in rather quickly on their mounts.
Okay, and are you, just to be clear, you want them to stay on the road, not leave the road, but just spread out a little?
How wide's the road?
We'll say the road is 2 mechalots wide, so maybe 30, maybe 40 feet wide.
Okay, no, just off the road.
Okay. And Akasha, you see this formation, the gladiators of House Jarko kind of spread out and prepare as this giant's approaching. Others are moving to catch up to the front of the caravan. What's Akasha doing as she approaches?
Before leaving the caravan in my coach with my grandfather, I've changed clothes. And I am now wearing a very desert pirate chic outfit where I have maintained the shoulderless, very impractical portion of my dress. I've pulled it up in the center and turned it into a tunic. And I am now wearing a pair of pants. And I'm going to go down. And I've decided, go with me. But she's gone full dynasty because she's realized the other voice doesn't convey what she needs to convey. So she's gone full Diane Carroll. I will return slowly, shortly, soon, to talk to you once I have handled the important business that we have to handle. I am going to talk to the giant, and when I speak with him, he will understand the power that is maintained by House Sereno.
Roll me a performance check.
That's a crit.
Yeah. Your performance is high already too, right?
I know. For shits and gigs, we should just add it in. See what's happening. 29.
Nice. So you can hear the clapping of your grandfather and Amaran, your friend, from the top of the Haldon, and your grandfather's kind of peering over. He says, I like that one even better. That's a keeper. And all the elven runners around you, as you've descended to the road, kind of like they beat their spears against their chest. One of them tells you, we're with you. Just let us know how we can help.
Dawn, at that moment, she hears two voices debating to her left and her right from out of her pocket.
So you hear these two voices, and one of them says, the one that's in your left ear, this is foolishness. There is no reason she should risk her life. She's likely to be eaten. None of these other houses, they do not care for her, what she does. There is no purpose in this. And then the other voice says, leaders have to be brave. She recognizes that. She has to be strong. She has to make her own choices. You can't make her choices for her. Well, I should make her choices for her. She would make better choices if I did. This goes back and forth and back and forth.
Now's not the time. I am prepared to make treaty with all of the people contained within the caravan, and on behalf of the caravan as your acting Caesar.
You get a Hail Caesar from the Elvish runners. We'll say your crit, like they're in with you. They're supporting you. And you can see ahead of you that the gladiators are starting to get lined up. And the young Elvish runner who's in front of you draws a longbow from over his back, and he says, what would you like us to do? How would you like us to proceed?
I would prefer if you would put down your weapons. If we attack and move forward towards them with weapons drawn, we only send the message that we are here for violence. And as your leader, I think that that is not the proper move that we should make. We should approach them with hands out and firm backbones.
Of course, as you say. And as soon as he motions for the rest of the elves to sheath or put away their weapons, and he slings his bow back over his shoulder, you hear that voice and from one ear again. She is definitely going to be eaten. I give her 3 full minutes.
It's not a really nice thing to say about someone that you're supposed to be taking care of.
You hear from the other ear, don't listen to him. Follow your instincts. You have this.
I want the elves to notice that she's just like looking back and forth from shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
just
They do. They try not to
ping-ponging.
stare, right? They try not to stare too much. They just kind of like look awkwardly away and towards the giant.
The way forward is the way that we will go, because that is how you move forward.
And when you say forward a second time, the elves begin to advance, not aggressively or with their weapons out, but cautiously and looking upward. Does Akasha move to the front as well to join Horsun and the others?
I place my hands behind my back and I walk forward powerfully and slowly with a casual strut, which is a little if you kind of get my drift. It's a very seductive-ish awkward walk that she thinks in her head looks very dun, 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 but it's more like
Is it like the start of America's Next Top Model? Just like their first walk where it's all leg and then it's all bum and then it's all leg.
It's like you want to be on top, and then you think it's going to be this like very dainty stride, but it's because she can't quite figure out what to do with her body while she's trying to be intimidating and moving forward. But she finds her stride slowly, shoulders back. And she moves forward confidently, adjacent.
We'll say that as you reach Horsun, Ebo, and Merila, you're about to catch up to the front too, but there's a moment at the head as Akasha gets to the head where Horsun, you're in your spot, and the giant now is just very slowly, not speaking, just slowly lumbering forward, probably about 80 feet ahead of you.
As Akasha approaches, Horsun will sense her presence somehow and look over and gaze upon the stride, and he'll kind of, purse his face. Who are you?
I'm in the middle of a very dignified walk right now. If you want to like talk to me, you can wait like a little bit. I am Lady Akasha of House Sereno, and I am on my way to make treaty with giants.
Oh, he's like trying to like look around to see if anybody else like had orders for like communication. Like, is this how it? And can you talk to giants?
I'm quite sure that I can. Can you talk to giants?
No. I was hoping someone else could, because I'm just here to protect people. Security,
Are you volunteering to be security for the Caesar?
I was appointed by Taruk. So, like, wait, are you? I thought Caesar was dead.
That Caesar is dead. I am acting Caesar, Akasha of House Sereno. I was in line to be the next High Praetor. However, upon the murder, death, suicide, whatever may have happened with the Caesar, I am now acting Caesar.
Horsun like looks you up and down. I didn't vote for you. And then he looks at the giant. Well, if you are Caesar, and he'll like awkwardly gesture. I'm just here to make sure everyone stays safe. Don't want to have to hurt this guy.
And at that moment, in this interaction, the giant now probably about 50 feet ahead, with Merila and Ebo having caught up to the front with this V-shape formation of gladiators and Akasha, some of the elvish runners, and Horsun. The giant hefts the club over his shoulder and crashes into the middle of the road. It doesn't look like he's swinging as hard as he can. He only hefts it with one arm, but it plants solidly in the center of the road, and just the swirl of this purple dust kicks up into the air and catches on the wind, blowing towards you and the rest of the caravan. And I know Ebo said that he speaks giant. Does Merila speak giant as well?
No, not even slightly.
Ebo, roll me a perception check now that you're this close.
Alrighty.
Also, does Akasha speak giant?
Absolutely not.
Wanted to check.
Looks like that's an 18.
18, yeah, that's pretty good. As the light from Taruk's orb once again strikes the giant and cuts through this swirling dust, you can make out, all of you are together now except for Dia, who has a great view of all of this. You can make out the tattoos on the giant's body. They give off a little bit of light. It's a little bit of this bluish, purplish light, and you recognize them as being written in the giant language. And while they don't make sense at first, you're able to determine that they are similar to runes that certain scientists use to enhance and focus their abilities. They suggest that there's a certain amount of training this giant has in psionics, which might be at odds with the common perception of giants. Usually in this area, when a giant shows up climbing out of the Sea of Silt, it's with a couple of friends, and they raid a village, and then they go back into the sea and sort of wade out to one of the islands where they live in. And you at least get a sense that there's some sort of psionic training, and that's the meaning of the runes. As you approach, and you are all together, and as this swirling dust starts to settle, you can hear a voice boom out, not in giant, but in the common language. Tongo looking for bad people. Does caravan have bad people?
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. Yes.
Pardon me? As acting head of this caravan and representative for everyone standing here behind me and within this entire caravan, we are not bad people. We are a hopeful people. are you a hopeful giant?
No, not anymore. Come closer. Tango would look at you. His eyesight not so good.
Is that why you lost your hope?
Evo, you wanted to do something?
Yeah. I wanted to see if I can tell what their runes are, like specifics about the runes that they're using. There's a detail that, oh man, there's a detail about my character that can kind of maybe ascertain maybe some sort of thing from those.
Okay.
So I'd kind of like to see if I can maybe make some sort of Arcana check to tell the nature of these improvements that this being has gotten.
Yeah, let's call it maybe not Arcana, maybe an investigation.
Sure. It's a crit.
Natural 20.
What campaign is this?
Okay.
I don't know. I never roll crits. What is this?
A good start. It's a very good start. Yes. So you have the time it's going to take you, maybe a couple of minutes to use your abilities to kind of get real specifics, but you currently have time as there's a conversation going on to really sort of take your time with it. And you're able to learn two interesting facts. One is that these are indeed psionic runes that are used to enhance a trained scion's abilities. Specifically, a number of the runes are capable of enhancing powerful telekinetic abilities and illusionary abilities. The other thing that you notice is that there's a tattoo that stands out from the others. That, though it's giving off that same sort of glow, that same sort of light, it's actually not written in a giant's tongue. It's not written in the language of any creature that you've ever come across. It's a very, very strange rune. And with a natural 20, even though you don't know what it says, you don't know the language, I'll at least give you a sense that it might be a rune of control. It might be some sort of control mechanism that somebody has put onto this creature.
Akasha, please know that this being is certainly quite strong and mysterious in a way. It doesn't look like his mind is his own.
Congo's mind his own? What do you mean by that?
Oh yes, Congo. So sorry. It seems that yeah, there's a certain marking that may be of influence to you at the moment.
Come closer, all. Let Tongo see you. And he slowly drops down to one knee and then to a second knee. He begins to bend down and crane his neck forward closer and closer to the group. As he does, you can see that his teeth, these massive teeth, a few of them have been sharpened, maybe on purpose. They're covered in dirt, and his mouth is covered in dirt. He's covered in sand. And he's slowly peering closer to you, squinting very hard.
Oh, certainly. As long as you don't harm me, I will come closer.
And I also want to get closer just so that maybe to show some sort of mutual understanding, but also to maybe suss out what the markings are a little bit deeper, if there's any way that I might be able to do something about that.
Yeah. What about everybody else? What about, let's start with Merila.
For the most part, honestly, I've been just nearby observing, like I told my father I would. Though Corey is reconnoitering a rather larger area, particularly hearing what Ebo had said and determined by some means or another. It might be that there's somebody nearby who's exerting this sort of control, or there may still be more creatures. So, Corey's taking a bit of a look around, but Merila's stood there.
Okay. Roll me a perception check for Corey. And is Merila, do you imagine that Merila is sort of back behind the line of others, sort of in the back of this group, or is more towards the front?
I think if there is an opportunity to get to the flank of things, that's where they feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
Who knows why? Oh, that's a 19 on the dice, which I think is a 19 total.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I'm not mad at it.
So,
yes.
Corey flying around, and there is, as I described this, the beginning of what's a small mountain range on the east. It actually starts to block off the Sea of Silt as the road descends into a gorge that wraps around it. And these large black rocks that stick out of the ground, covering most of the sky. Corey's able to go up and up and up, and circling around as you're looking through the bird's eyes. You don't see anything at first, and then you see two large shapes. Not as large as the giant, but much larger than a human, slithering over the top of the rocks. For a moment, at the top of this little hill, the entrance to the gorge, there's these two shapes crossing over each other, their bodies writhing, and then they quickly snap downward and disappear into a crevice.
How are they positioned relative to Merila?
From where Merila is, they can look up and see the area that they're in, but Merila wouldn't be able to see the figures from the ground at the moment. They would have to climb up.
I'm asking really about my capacity to bluff that I and not the bird have seen.
I think, you might be able to do that, yeah.
All right. I edge toward Horsun,
Okay.
who has designated himself a bit of a protector of the group.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Did you see that movement up the hill? I think there might be more people there.
I've been kind of focused on the big thing with the holding the tree. Where?
Up there. Can't you see?
No. Can I see?
You can't see any figures up there, but the spot that Merila is pointing out, you can see it's like this little rocky outcropping, maybe 60, 70 feet up this hill, this black rock, and there's a ledge.
It's like a little ambush spot, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. Huh. Well, if this is what they want us to do, are you good at being sneaky?
I've been known to. A little.
You think you can get up there? Or make a distraction?
Yes.
Alright.
Right.
How do you want to work this?
I'll start climbing and I can get up onto the ledge on your cue.
Alright. When you want me to draw attention?
Probably, right as I'm near the top, I suppose. I'm not really a bandit tactician, I'm afraid. I just saw something and you seemed like the person to talk to.
Yeah, maybe. Well, trust your instincts. Let's go.
Right.
And then we'll kind of like back away from the conversation slowly.
Dia, you see everything, we'll say. I'm not going to make you make rolls because you're just able to see everything from your vantage point. So you're able to see from your spot in the middle of the pack that Ebo and Akasha are right up at the front. It seems like maybe they're approaching to talk to this giant who's craning his head forward along the ground. You see slowly like Horsun and Merula start to kind of step back away from the group, maybe a little off to the side.
And you said, I think the giant is about 200 feet away from Dia. Is that right?
Yeah, from the center of the pack, maybe 200 feet. Yeah, but right up at the front now of the pack.
All right, Dia's just gonna stretch her ears a little bit and listen real hard to see if she can catch in the conversation. I think obviously we'll have some difficulty with the wind and everything going on, so she might move up the pack a small distance, say about 140 feet maybe, just a little wander up the pack so she can hear what's going on.
All right. And is Dia like getting on the ground, or do you imagine that Dia's like jumping from Mechalot shell to Mechalot shell and like skittering forward? Like, what's this approach look like?
I think as much fun as it would be for her to be parkouring her way up, she's not in that much of a rush. She kind of casually slides down, and not trusting members of the caravan, she'll collect her lantern, as it is rather precious and delicate. And if things are about to kick off and things start stampeding everywhere, she really doesn't want it getting crushed. So she'll carry it with her as she proceeds towards the front, but it's very casual. She's keeping an eye on everyone. She'll greet a few members of the house and such on the way through, make sure they're all behaving. It's just very casual, as if she really doesn't care what's happening at the front. But she's moving up to get a little bit closer so she can hear what is actually going on. Because it was fascinating to watch, but it's even better if you can hear what's happening.
And as you're passing, you can hear anxiety, maybe fear from some of the servants of the houses, and their howdaws are off to the side. You can see that most of the lords, like Lucius of House Akasha, is sort of just seated watching. It's almost like he's watching a show. Taruk is still sort of shining the orb, but he doesn't seem perturbed. He's just kind of squinting like down his long nose, trying to figure out what's happening. The nobles don't seem as worried as some of the servants. And roll me a charisma saving throw.
Why, Don? Okay. How's about 3? How'd you like that?
You're almost up to the front of the line, some 60 feet behind where they're gathered. And another blast of wind crosses the road, kicking up some silt. as it passes through you and around you. For a moment, you can't see anything in front of you. You can't see anything behind you. You're just pelted with this sort of purple sand in the twilight. It's cold. It's bone cold. I mean, it's been a sweltering day, but this blast of wind hits your spine in a way that's surprising. And there's a flicker from your lantern.
She draws the lantern closer to her, kind of draping some of that fabric over it to protect it, and she's looking at this dust. She's blinking it from her eyes and is confused. This isn't quite right, and it's bothering her. And she'll cast an eye around to see if anyone is watching her and not the very big guy at the front with all the tattoos, who everyone should be watching. Because she's now like, is someone screwing with me? What's going on?
You can roll me a perception check. Say it's at disadvantage because you're currently like wrapped in this silt.
7.
Yeah, you can't actively see anybody watching you. Maybe you could imagine that if you can't see anybody, nobody's seeing you either. At least for the moment, as this sort of storm blows through where you're walking, you're being pelted in the face with sand and in the eyes, but you can see the glow from your lantern. And for a moment, through the sort of cloth that you pulled over it, the color of the fire, the flickering flames changes. It becomes a very pale blue. And the fire starts to stretch outward towards the outside, the glass of this lantern, the edge of this lantern, and pushes. It almost looks like a hand pushing up against the edge of this lantern.
Startled by this, the fabric is cast to a side, not wanting to immolate herself, just having left the city. And she stares at this hand and... What are you reaching for? Silt, it gets everywhere. And she's going to try and push out of this cloud and stumble, I guess, forwards in that direction, because she can't quite remember what's behind her, but forwards was clear when she last checked. And the lantern, I think, will be held out from her body, just protective, because she's not sure why it's acting strange, and she's not about it.
Roll me one more charisma saving throw.
I just stared at my sheet, really hoping there was something that was going to buff it, but there isn't anything. 8.
As you push forward, you don't stumble into the shell of a mechalod. You don't stumble into any of the servants or guards of the different houses. It's just you in the storm. And it's darker and darker. You can still feel the stinging against your skin as this sand and silt blows past you. You can still see the light of the lantern glowing at your side. That hand begins to strike, no longer just touching the edge of the lantern, the inside of the lantern, but striking it again and again and again. And there's a shadow that begins to creep upward, not from the lantern. It's cast into the silt ahead of you. This tall, thin, slightly humanoid shape rising up in the silt as it swirls. You're moving directly towards it.
No. She stops in her tracks and tries to move backwards. I will blow you out, don't you dare. She doesn't believe a word that she just threatened it with, but she's trying. And the lantern is cast out as far back, and she stares forwards, and a hand instinctively goes out, and she begins to mutter some words, but just nothing happens. And the hand clenches a little tighter. And then she'll try again, only this time she's going to push out some radiant energy, because she can do that. And I would like to blast the shadow with some radiant energy from the sun that I've been baking in all day and still currently bake in as a human being. Let me see.
So this is the sort of photosynthesis ability that you have. Yeah, go ahead and make me an attack.
All right, so the attack uses my dex, so I could just use my unarmed strike to attack, correct? Do the same thing?
Sure, yeah. It ends up being the same, yeah.
So that's a 21 to hit.
So as you push forward this radiant light stored in your body and projected outward from your hand with your mind, it cuts through the silt, it cuts through the shadow, and the silt falls away. It swirls for a moment and falls back to the ground. The lantern, the flickering, slamming flames stretch back into the center of the lantern. Instantaneously, their color changes back to a normal color. The shadow fades, and you find yourself some 60 feet away from the giant and the others at the front of this caravan, without a sign that there was a storm here at all that anyone else saw. They're just going about their business.
She scowls at that lantern in her hand. This is what I get for taking you to see the sights. And she tuts again. The same tut that she gave as Horsun charged off at the first sign of a giant. Here we go. And she is going to choose to believe that this was a distraction to keep her from getting involved, that someone is interfering, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't think that's entirely what it is, but that's enough for her, and she was going to push forwards, closing that 60 feet to come to the back of the pack, or I guess the head of the lead of the caravan.
All right. So you join then Akasha and Ebo, as this giant now is like face to face with Ebo. And Christina, does Akasha advance too? Does Akasha get right up in this giant's face so he can look at her? Okay. And Michael, you had a plan for Ebo once you got up to the front, right?
Yes. I was going to say to the giant.
Can we make some sort of agreement? You can look at me and you must allow me to look at this symbol for a minute.
He opens his mouth again, and you can smell, it sort of smells like rotten meat coming out of his mouth. That's the smell on his breath. He stares and squints hard at you. And he says, "Do not try to trick Congo. Congo will know."
No trick. I just want to figure out what that is.
He stretches his neck up a little bit so that you can get a better look at this unique tattoo that's on the side of his neck.
I'm just going to touch it for a minute, if you will allow.
Yeah, his skin is unusually oily. It's much more oily than a man's skin. It's almost slick. And it's very warm. It's warmer than a normal person's skin would be. But he doesn't flinch. He does stare down as you're touching his neck to Akasha, and he says, "I know you."
Do you though?
My friends. gods are looking for you, my new friend.
I do not know your friends. However, I would be willing to talk with you and establish a deal of some sort for safe passage for myself and my compatriots.
What deal do you offer?
May Dia
And-
interrupt?
Yeah, and
Sorry,
also,
Michael.
Ebo, you've had a moment too. Is Ebo doing something specific, using a specific ability here?
Yes, I wanted to cast Identify, and I also have the Intrigue feat of Subtle Caster. So, not that like I'm trying to make it seem that I'm trying to hide it away from him, but as he's having conversation with someone else, it's more like, oh, he's distracted like a kid at like getting an immunization shot. It's not that you're trying to mean any ill or harm. You're just like, let me do this while you're preoccupied.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be the start of a social encounter. We'll get more into that here in a minute, and we'll tie the three of you together with the giant. But you can go ahead and cast Identify.
Okay.
So, and make me a sleight of hand check as well.
Absolutely. And so I believe that's advantage on this, so I will do that here. It's using my Arcana thing, so I have not done Roll20 in a hot minute, so I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
Here. I'll just roll some dice.
So automatic. Yeah, it should automatically roll advantage for you in Roll20. I think I have it set up like that.
Yeah. So, and then chat says, did it roll? Okay, so 18. It didn't roll the thing, so I'll just do it one more time.
Okay. I gotcha. Sweet. Okay, so and your bonus is 7, so you got a 25. It looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yes.
Oh, sleight of hand. Sorry. So that's 19 total. Yep.
19 total. That's still really good. Yeah, that's above the passive perception. So you're able to do this without going notice, cast this spell. And I think like if you have to take a little bit of life force from the giant, he's so large, he has enough to give that you can do so without tipping him off that you're casting a spell. He doesn't seem to notice. And what you recognize about the tattoo is that it is not, there's nothing magic to it, or if it is magic, it's a foreign and alien kind of magic. It is certainly a rune cast on this giant of psionic nature, but you're even more positive now, though you can't tell the school or exactly how it works or how you could use it, that it's sort of a trigger that can be turned on and off by whomever put it there. And certainly,
Gotcha.
It certainly has something to do with mind control of some sort. You're positive.
Can I ascertain if the switch is on or off at the moment?
Yeah, sure. I'll say, give me an Arcana roll.
Okay.
All this like a weird
Jeez, Pete's.
You just rolled 2 natural 20s.
Yeah.
You recognize that the trigger is not currently on, that it's not been triggered. And with a natural 20, you would know, you get the feeling that it has to be manually triggered. That it's not like when an event happens, it turns on. It's that someone or something has to choose to activate it.
All right. I'll just hold on to that information for now until maybe it is relevant.
Okay. Let's have Dia interject and set up the beginning of the social intrigue, and then we'll tie in Horsun and Merila on their alternate adventure.
So Dia has pushed her way forwards, and she's unsettled and frustrated, and she barks out in giant, Tarak Nal Ranmada. Why are you in our way?
And for a moment, the giant that's staring very intently at Akasha, who's just said, "I know you, my friends are looking for you," the eyes shift and the head turns. It actually forces your hand off of its neck, Evo. And the giant's gaze turns towards Dia, and there's a rumbling sound from the back of its throat. It actually shakes your body a little bit, and the giant calls out a little more forcefully, "I'm looking for bad people." And I want to hang it there for a moment and move up to Merila and Horsun. So what's the approach here? What's this look like?
Well, Merula has sent Corey up and behind our friends, so as to see where they are looking and where they are moving, and basically have the back of them from up above on this ledge, facilitating knowing when to press themselves up against the rock wall by knowing where their gaze is. And Merila is climbing this obsidian, which, based on what I know of the level of friction of obsidian, is a lot. That's slippy. But they're making a slippy climb right now.
And especially like with the silt that's blown over it, it's not like silt is wet, but as it catches, like a little chunk of silt that falls off of the obsidian only makes it harder to climb. This already very
I'll rub,
challenging.
maybe there's a chalk effect here.
Yeah,
Maybe.
get some on your hands. Yeah. What about Horsun?
Horsun's been looking where Merila's looking, and also trying to split his gaze between the scene going down there. His objective is, if the giant notices them, then he'll branch off in a distraction to ensure that Merila can ascend.
All right. And is Horsun, but Horsun's staying at the bottom of this climb?
If he can still look and ascend, he's going to attempt to ascend a little bit for support, in case Merila might.
Then let's do this. Let's do a group check, and I want each of you to make me a stealth roll, and each of you to make me an athletics check or acrobatics, if that's your climbing preference.
Okay.
I appreciate.
Oh. All right. Horsun got a 13 on that stealth.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Merula got 23 on the stealth and that nat 20 on the acrobatics, so 28.
Wow, you're all killing it. So yeah.
That's later. What?
And Horsun got 27 on the athletics.
Athletics. So not only are you not spotted by anyone, even your allies, you just sort of slip away, and you not spotted as you're climbing. The two of you, very different approaches to climbing this challenging obsidian. But both of you are like keeping up with each other, like nook for nook, moving, using your own strengths, and you're able to get to the top of this cliff, this perch. It's about 70 feet above the ground. You can see the light from Taruk's orb still shining on the face of the giant below. You can see some of your allies down there in the darkness, especially the ones that catch the light. But you're now up on this peak, and the wind is howling here as it comes off of the sea.
What does Corey see? What are our friends up to?
Yeah, roll me one more perception check for Corey. They've been circling this entire time, right? Like trying to not...
Right, casual. Fly casual, if you will. Do we like investigation, just in the spirit of asking?
Yeah, I'm cool with investigation.
Oh, good, that's much better then. That's a 19.
Okay. Corey had lost them as they slithered into a crevice in the sort of rock cliff, into maybe like a cave underground or something. It's hard to tell. And Corey gets a little bit closer and is able to see one of them just sort of slowly writhing in the shadows beneath this crevice, lingering. A scaly body, snake-like body, but with a torso that's maybe the girth of a tree trunk, a large trunk, but only one body. And as Corey locates this creature and you reach the top of the cliff, the wind catches for a second. You don't feel it for a second. It's like something's blocking it. And then a form appears that wasn't there in front of you, like fading out of invisibility, slowly from the bottom upward, materializing. A large, dark green, snake-like humanoid with a body as wide as a tree trunk, wielding a pair of long, sharp obsidian swords, a tongue flickering out of its mouth, and like a cobra, 2 sides to its head hooked around as it rises up in front of you, its eyes shining with the moonlight. But that's where we're going to take a break, and we'll come back to that here in a moment. We'll be back in about 5 minutes or so, friends. So stick around, check out some of our friends, some of the art from our community for our show, and we will see you here very, very soon. And we return with the start of a surprise round as the snake-like humanoid sheds its invisibility 5 feet in front of both of you on this precipitous cliff. 2 blades in either of its arms that stick out from the side of its bodies, but it's not the blades that come at you, Merula. It's the body itself crashing down and beginning to spin and try to wrap around you. You have just a moment to react. What do you do?
I drop my grip to one hand for a moment, which will swing my body to the side to dodge away.
All right. Make me a... Well, I'll roll this. 17 on the attack.
Then, as a reaction, I will deflect strike.
All right.
Which will get my
and
AC
how's
up
that?
just enough to miss.
Just enough to miss. And is there a motion that accompanies that? Is it something that somebody would recognize? Would Horsun notice something?
I don't know what sting a strike might necessarily look like, except that it's like a bad animation. It looks like physics breaks a little bit. Someone who is so used to anticipating the arc and motion and prediction of where a movement should be, where a strike should hit, would notice that where the enemy ends up is not possibly where he could have been.
So for Horsun, as the snake attempts to wrap around Merrill at the last second, its body bends awkwardly to the side and twists away. It's almost like it starts to coil and then it immediately uncoils in an awkward direction and it retreats up back 5 feet. And you can hear the rattling sound at the back of its tail, a hiss from its long tongue, and it draws its 2 blades across its chest, its abdomen, and stares glaring down at the both of you. But that's all it's going to do in the surprise round. And I want to give, let's give the initiative to Horsun.
So, witnessing that mind-boggling manipulation of physics, we're still climbing, correct?
Say that, like, yeah, you could climb, if you could get up 5 more feet to where this thing has retreated, you could stand, but you're hanging on right now. Yeah.
Right. So that's going to be Horsun's objective, is to getting to a secure ground. So would that be athletics to climb to that situation, or like a leap?
No, you'll spend like half of your movement plus the 5 feet to get up there, but it will trigger an opportunity attack. As you climb up, this creature has more than enough opportunity to attack you.
Yeah. Okay. That's what Horsun will do.
Okay. Rolls a 15 on the attack.
Armor class is 15.
So the roller always wins, so that'll be a hit.
Unless I use a wild talent, which also seems like something's glitchy and physics kind of manipulates itself in a weird way. This is like a video game that doesn't correct, like something, the video card is overheating. And where a strike would happen with this sword, where it may land purchase in flesh, instead it's like it glances off armor that's like 2 inches outside of where it normally would have struck.
Yeah, there's almost like there's a little spark, right? Like a little like flint-like spark in midair as this blade turns off to the side, and that form continues to rise up, growing a little taller, but it's still your turn, Horsun.
So he's in a free action. We'll say, "Don't suppose we can talk our way into anything here." And then his right foot will go back, and he will lower his center of gravity and get into a fighting stance and do that bob that you see in every sort of fighting game when you're picking your character.
Yes. There's only another long lick of the tongue and another hiss in return.
So then if he's got an action here, he's going to take the first strike, and he's going to open by generating force with his right leg through his body, and then take a jab with his left hand near the if the skull is in range. If it's taller than that, then aim for something in what seems to be the torso area. 18.
18 will be a hit.
For the first attack.
We can say that as it's slithering up, you have a moment where you can jab out right at its face.
I want to land the jab, right? And then the jab is going to set up for his right hook, which is going to be this roll right here. A 25.
Wow, yes. Yeah, they're both hits.
Let's roll some damage on that. 8 bludgeoning for the jab. 5 bludgeoning for the hook.
And you catch him with a 1-2 quickly before he can pull his head back out of your range. And there's sort of a bobbing and a weaving, just a staggered look, and that glare from its gleaming eyes for a moment is hazy and confused as you've caught it off guard.
And in that haze and confusion, he's going to burn a moxie point to take 2 more attacks for a move called the old 1-2, which I guess would be the 3-4 in this particular case. So after landing the hook and making him a little dizzy, he's going to go for a left uppercut and put all of the motion and torque his hips to generate as much power as he can to landing that uppercut. 18.
Ooh, an 18's going to be a hit.
And then the old 2 part of that 1-2 is going to be after that uppercut hits, he's going to put all the power he can into a straight and take his right hand and attempt to project it through the material goop of this entity.
Okay. I forgot for a moment. 22's a hit too. Yeah, go ahead and roll the damage for both of those. I forgot for a moment too that you're playing one of my favorite classes, the Pugilist, which is a fantastic class.
Yep, Benjamin Huffman, mad props. So the uppercut does 7 bludgeon damage, and as he's generating all the force that he can with his pelvis, the power goes through his right leg, and his right hand launches right in what would be the sternum of any other humanoid form, but in this abdomen, torso, the center of that area, 12 bludgeoning damage.
Yeah, and you send it through the center mass of this creature, and your arm for a moment is stuck in its abdomen, and when you pull it back out, it's not goop or blood that is spilling from the inside of the scales that you've punched a hole through. It's many smaller writhing snakes that are spilling out from the inside of this larger snake onto the ground. One of them catches on your arm and rolls around, wraps around your arm. We'll say you knock it off.
And then his shoulders get back, and he kind of gets a little more confident. He's like, "Oh, still got it. And he starts bobbing and weaving.
Great. All right, Merila, it's your turn.
Merula will twist a little farther back because they have their hand in that one grip, find their feet and use it for a dynamic climb up over the ledge. In a leap, since the creature's opportunity attacks have been spent by
you're free.
paying attention to this this tremendous fighter, truly. And with the other hand, then, they pull their metal dagger, and something overhead seems to provide a bit of distraction for just a moment, but it's a little dark. One might not necessarily see what it was, and one is focused on being covered in snakes anyway. But as a blackbird flies by, Merula will rake across the back of it, trying to go for the spinal cord. Maybe reduce its mobility, since apparently you don't want to go for the internal organs. It's full of snakes.
Excellent. And you will have advantage with this too.
Those are both 18s.
Yeah, that's a hit.
An 18 plus a number. 26. There we go. All right. So that's 17 damage.
All right.
And as
You
rake with that slide, they're going to roll off into the tall grass of perpetual invisibility, into which I know the neighbor snake also was, but as a hide action, in effect.
Absolutely. Go ahead and roll me a stealth check.
Let's see. 14 plus 11. Enough?
Pretty good.
25. There we go.
Yeah, it's enough. Yeah. Yeah, so you slip away very quickly after gashing through the back of the snake, and it crashes forward towards you, Horsun. Its head slams into the ground and bounces up off of the ground. Is there anything else you can do or want to do with Merila's turn?
No, I think to Horsun, it really looks like one movement almost, that the launch turns into the slash, turns into the roll in the grass. It's a very agile combatant. Probably not what one might have expected from this squishy noble.
Horsun.
And that's Merila.
Have you ever dealt with any powerful psionic threats before? Is Horsun in his training ever trained in the mind, in defense of the mind? Or is it just the body?
Yeah, a hard no on the mind stuff, Don.
Cool.
Brains are for weaklings, okay?
Something happens in your brain, Horsun.
Cool.
Yeah, it affects your vision. For a moment, it's not that you're standing on this howling cliff in front of this snake-like creature. It's that the sun rises above the cliff. It's like the night fades and the sun rises very, very quickly. The large, dark sun that hangs overhead. And for a second, you feel your attention drawn upwards to that sun. And falling from the sky are a sort of storm of snakes, a rain of snakes. They're falling all over your body onto the ground around you. They're beginning to pile up to your knees, to your waist. Roll me a wisdom saving throw.
Is that athletics? Because A wicked 3, my friend.
In your mind, you struggle against this rising tide of slithering bodies as they come up, and you're like pulling yourself up as they rise faster and faster. You're trying to keep your head out of this tide, but then it encompasses you, and you can feel something slither in through your open mouth. And then the lights go out, and you're back on that howling cliff with a suggestion planted into your mind by this creature. Find Merula. Restrain Merula. Leave with us. That's the end of the snake's turn.
To be fair, if that is the suggestion, did Merula introduce themselves to me?
That's a good point.
I don't think that we've really formally met, in no small part because I recall Merula arriving a touch later than most of the group. I know they haven't been introduced to a fair chunk of the party.
For funsies, let's say that it's accompanied by an image of what they look like.
Okay. All right, pal.
I appreciate the persnickitude, though.
No, I do too. I do.
Okay, so the suggestion, and it's like it sounds like a good idea.
So suggestion.
To me.
And it's your turn.
And there's not a rain of snakes. I'm not swimming in snakes anymore. Like everything's normal-ish.
You're back. Yeah, you're back. Except for now you have this suggestion implanted in the back of your head.
You see him kind of like, hey, come with me, and then he'll try to make an attempt to like grab a hand
hiding
or
too.
Oh, so I can't see them.
Not currently. It's like when you look around, they're just gone. They were there a moment ago. They were on the back of the snake, but now they're gone.
Where'd you go? Come with me. I want to take you somewhere. And I guess I spend the action searching, or my turn searching.
You can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to make a perception check, and I think the DC to beat is 25.
Cool. Well, since perception isn't athletics, there's a pretty good shot of.
No, that's persuasion.
That's 16. That sure is. They both start with PER, my friend.
I understand. I've done it many times.
22.
22 is good, but it's still not good enough. You'd really need a natural 20 here. So that's how you spend your turn. And Merula, from where you're hidden, you can see that the snake is not attacking. Horsun sort of turned away from the snake and has called for you to come out, that they want to show you something. The snake is starting to rise back up again slowly. It looks very injured, but it's still moving.
I really am quite focused on there being snakes. This does continue to be a subject of my utmost concern. So I think I do pop out of the grass a little bit nearer Horsun to get a quick, visual mid-fight body language read of just like, wait, what Where is he looking that he would want us to go somewhere? Is he seeing something tactically that I am not? Before I would presumably slide right up this snake and, well, do my scales.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, how would they see Horsun as they peek up? What's Horsun look like in that moment?
He seems, for as bulky as he appears, he's looking around kind of stumbling, like he doesn't have the purpose that you would think, the intention that you would think when this man looks for something, he looks for something, and he can't seem to nail down. There's a disconnect there between what one might think would be the objective and the execution.
I've seen him fight, and this doesn't really quite look like the person who started this fight. But at the same time, I barely know him. And I do trust him, so I think I shall stay nearby, and I will draw one of the little bone blades that I have, not my metal dagger, to throw, while staying nearby Horsun. Just
you have advantage on this
because that snake is full of snakes. I don't know if you caught that, Dom, but the snake is full of snakes, and I'm concerned about it.
Yeah,
and
my
also,
favorite part
there's a
about it.
secondary snake that I have not forgotten about.
Oh.
Having revealed myself voluntarily to Horsun, should I consider myself as attacking from stealth? Because I've revealed myself to an ally, or is it really when I make the attack, the stealth will break?
It's when you make the attack, we'll say.
Okay. All right. Cool. Being honest with my advantage. 23 to hit.
Yeah, that's a hit.
Okay, good. And 21 damage.
That is enough to defeat the snake. So how does that happen? What's the finishing move here?
The snake just starting to get up and presumably casting their gaze around, trying to find the enemies still out there, Merida. And there's a moment where the snake turns and locks eyes perfectly with Merila, and their position is completely revealed. And then that eye is perpetually shut by a bone blade.
Horsun, you hear the whirl of the blade as it spins through the air, and the sound when it strikes, and with that sound, that suggestion that was in your mind, it's gone, as though it wasn't there. You can still remember that feeling of drowning in snakes, but you don't remember the suggestion as it's broken. And the snake's body topples backwards and rolls and falls down the cliff some 70 feet and hits the ground down below. Merila, it's still your turn.
Yes, I'm going to shoulder my way, keeping my eye on Horsun, because again, he said he wanted to show me something, but I am edging back into the grass again to hide, because there is another snake and I haven't had eyes on them in a moment, so I would rather not be surprised by it.
Absolutely. Go ahead and roll me another stealth check.
That's 15.
Okay.
To roll real lousy for that.
I know for you to get a 15, it has to be pretty bad. So Horsun, you have this moment in your back, and you're still kind of coming out of this weird haze of everything that just happened. and then there's a cracking sound from above as a large chunk of obsidian falls from the cliff higher up and smashes into the ground next to you. And a moment later, a second snake-like humanoid's body, like an arrow shooting down from above, flies towards you, crashing towards you, Horsun. And they're going to take their turn. They'll have advantage
Good
on
luck,
this.
snake creature.
16.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
All right. That's going to be 12 bludgeoning damage. And as it strikes you, it knocks you back for a moment like you're hanging off of the back of this cliff. And then its body wraps around you and begins to squeeze tighter and tighter and tighter around you. It uses its bonus action as it has you in its grasp, its head hanging down overhead. Its mouth drops wider, elongates further than a normal snake's, and you can see another snake inside of its mouth peek up through the back of it. It hisses at you with a secondary tongue, and then both heads snap down towards you. Be a 21.
Also a hit.
Be 5 piercing damage and 10 poison damage.
Okay.
That's the end of its turn. I'm going to give it to you, Horsun. You're currently grappled, and like you might have fallen off this cliff if it hadn't wrapped itself around you, but it's just snapped down. It's bitten into your shoulder. You can feel the pain. It's like the searing pain of the poison coursing through your body. It also kind of clouds your mind a little bit.
Gotcha. So there's a lot that just happened to Horsun here. So the haze that is cleared, does he recognize that he was under the influence of some sort of bippity boo?
Roll me an insight check. Bippity boo.
Is that athletics?
I think so, right?
15.
Yeah.
15.
15's pretty good. Yeah, I think you get the idea that whatever happened was a psionic attack. Even if Horsun's not trained in defending his mind, he's aware of psionics. He knows that some creatures have powerful psionic abilities, and he's even been briefed a little bit on this sort of enemy that they're dealing with, the fact that they are powerful psionics. So I think he's aware that it was a psionic attack. Maybe not that he was being manipulated. Like, he probably doesn't know what the purpose of it was, just that it was very disturbing, and now he's been caught off guard.
Well, Horsun has a bad history with people telling him what to do and trying to control him, so he gets angry. And he uses his bonus action, like, while restricted. And normally it would be something that's painful, but he flexes his bulk and his arms, like, outside of the constriction, and then, like, smacks the sides of this thick snake, and his shoulders posture up, and you can see he's got this wry grin on his face, and he's going to use his bonus action for the Persona Libre ability, and like, this extra charisma starts, like, happening, and you can see he's, like, adopting this different persona, and with this smile he's like, grappling, not a good idea with me. And so does this thing also wielding weapons, or is it just...
It does have a pair of arms, only one blade, but it has a bow also, like, wrapped around the string of the bow, wrapped around its head.
Okay.
Like a long bow.
So I want to attempt a disarm attack on the sword that it's holding, which would be versus athletics, I believe.
Okay. What is it, like...
I make an attack roll
athletics?
versus the athletics of the snake.
Okay, cool.
Humanoid.
Go for it.
All right. And he's going to try to, with one of his free hands, just punch the forearm area. Oh, that's a natural one. That's a big no. Well, I can't lose my balance. It's hugging me.
It's true. It has you grappled still. Yeah, I mean, you do what you say. Like, you do push it back enough to, like, get free enough that you can strike out at its arm. But as you strike out, it pushes you back. And now you're both hanging off the edge of this cliff somewhat. And the only reason you're not falling is because it has you wrapped around it. So your punch just, like, kind of goes wide a little bit.
And then for the remaining attack, I'd like to make a grapple check on it.
Okay. Yes. Please do.
It's a 15.
And it's versus an 11. So yeah, so describe how you in turn you grapple this snake. You're hanging off this cliff.
So he initially misses with the disarm attempt, but then he kind of comes under and uses the rest of his body to use his left hand to grab right behind the delt of the arm wielding the sword and kind of has like a vice grip on the upper arm. And then he uses the free hand that he missed with to go,
Anything else on your turn?
Nope.
All right, Merila, it's your turn.
Yes. With this creature grappling Horsun and both of them a little precarious, there's a moment where I don't even quite know how to physics damaging this creature without potentially both of them going over the edge. And while I'm sure a snake hug would cushion a fall for Horsun, I think my father would be very cross with me if I were the proximate cause of death of our party on the very first day of travel. So, with that in mind, coming from the grasses with this creature's back to me, presumably, because there's ledge in front, and that's where it's going. Merila sneaks and will use a little bit of ledge for a jump to pull the snake back with a little bit of their body weight and stab the dagger up into the base of the spine.
All right. You do have advantage
what is
on
the
this.
snake's... Okay, yeah. I was like, what's the passive there? Yeah. Ooh, yes. 27.
Yeah, that's a hit.
And 17.
Okay. Yeah, and you pull back and you stab into the back of its neck, and its mouth, which is very elongated, like drops even more, and it shakes back and forth and back and forth. Anything else you want to do on your turn?
I'll, having done this move, put my foot into the base of the shoulder and kick off to roll back into the grass.
Yeah, absolutely. Roll down.
It's very much just like trying
to
stay behind, and wherever it looks, you go around behind. Yeah.
Excellent.
That's a 14 to stealth.
Okay.
To be fair, I'm trying to stay behind a thing. It's not the best way of stealthing.
On the snake's turn, the mouth that's open, Horsun, you see 6 smaller snakes spring out of the mouth, all falling down and snapping at you, using a multi-bite attack as you're still grappled with this creature. So this is going to be... a 9, which I know is not a hit. Okay. So these snakes are falling on top of your body. You're able to like clear them out of the way. They're snapping at you, but none of them are able to break the skin. And then a spray of black liquid shoots out of the creature's mouth down on top of you. I need you to make me a Constitution saving throw.
Ooh, I might be good at that. 16.
All right. You'll take half damage here. Oh, you will take 8 poison damage. This gunk like gets in your open wound, it like gets into your eye for a moment, and you're able to keep most of it away from you. But again, at where it touches you, there's this sort of like shock sent through your nerves.
And the shock that happens to him, he blacks out for just a second, and in the dark recesses of the back of his small mind, he kind of sees himself kind of floating up into nothingness, and then that image of himself, like he shakes out of that image, and his eyes open and wakes up, and he's like, oh, wake up, it's not over yet. Keep going. And he's going to use his bloody but unbowed ability, which is a reaction to dipping below half his hit points, where I gain temporary hit points equal to my level plus my con modifier. So that would be a total of 8, and then I get all my moxie points back.
Excellent. Yeah, it's an awesome ability. It's your turn, Horsun.
And so he shakes himself out of it, and he comes to with renewed vigor. So having the upper arm, the sword arm, grappled, he's going to posture up and attempt to break the grapple by taking his right hand and pushing down on the body, attempting to wrench his body free of the coil, which would be athletics to break, correct?
That's right, yeah. Escape. Your DC is, you can use athletics or acrobatics. The DC is 13.
Well, definitely not using acrobatics. Oh no! It's a 12.
Oh no. Yeah, it tightens just enough, like you almost get out, and then it tightens, and you have the you're stuck in this position where you have to make a choice right now. Because it's still got you, but you've still got it too.
Well, then I'm going to use my bonus action and spend a moxie point to shove it away from me.
Okay.
With a shove attack. And I believe, yeah, that's athletics as well, correct? Or is that actually? I forget if that's an actual.
No, you use athletics. Yeah.
Much more better. 28.
What'd you get? I don't think I can beat that, but I'll roll a 9. Oh goodness.
So with that, after he fails the grapple escape, he you can see his determination, his brow furrows, and with the upper arm and against the body, he kind of takes a deep breath and braces his trunk and shoves this humanoid, the snake-like humanoid, 5 feet away.
And you, Merula, witness as the two of these beings, Horsun and this snake, are grappled together, tied together. And Horsun's not able to pull himself out. He pushes the snake, and both of them go off the edge of the cliff, over the edge and down below, taking 31 falling damage. And it's just a second later, Horsun, as you smash into the ground, you can hear a sort of explosion as the scales of the snake rip apart and other snakes kind of spill out, not alive, but dead, out of those wounds. And are you still awake when you take 31 damage? Are you still up?
I want to ask a couple of questions. So in in my suspended state over the thing, and shoving this thing away would technically break a grapple. But in the fall, depending on the duration of the fall, do I have a moment, since I initiated the action and I might be able to have it like an extra second or two of reaction time here, to re-grapple it and perhaps use this thing as a sled?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's call this a dexterity saving throw. And we'll say the DC is, I mean, this is pretty, you can spend your reaction to do this. Let's call the DC as something reasonable like 15.
18. Rolled an 18.
All right.
Woo!
So we'll say you don't take the falling damage because you use this thing's body as a sled going down the edge of this cliff as it's impaled again and again by sharp obsidian edges. And you, Merila, you probably don't witness this unless you run to the edge. Do you run to the edge to look?
I see the, like, Aragorn and a warg style over the cliff, and am convinced that Horsun is that was the end. He was very nice for a few minutes, and then I run to the edge to see what I'm sure will be the mangled body, and I see the back of him snake
sledding down the mountain. And there's that same explosion I described before when you hit the bottom, just a splat as snakes come flying out of the wounds of this creature. And Horsun, down the ground, you look up and there's the two moons of Athos hanging overhead, and there's Merila peering down at you from the cliff above.
And so, as the Merrill is the only witness to this, right? We're far away from the rest of the group.
As far as you know, yeah.
Well, he's not going to pay attention to anyone else's eyes, but after this whole series of events, he's going to like get up, and you see like a smirk on his face, and he's going to do the Conor McGregor walk where he's like strutting and his arms are going like behind his back, and he's flicking his arms as he's like walking down the mountain just for himself.
And so there's this moment here at the edge of the cliff as Horsun struts, and Merila, you're at the top of the cliff looking down. What's Merila's next move?
Having witnessed really quite possibly the coolest thing they've ever seen, but and knowing that he is secure, Merula will walk to the edge of the ledge that faces the interaction with the giant, just to see what is even happening over there right now, to check in before they attempt the very slippery down climb that an obsidian cliff will bring.
This is a great time to find out what's happening over there with the giant as we move to Ebo, Akasha, and Dia. Going back in time a little bit, these two events are sort of happening simultaneously, and we left off with Dia interjecting and the giant moving forward and rumbling in a way that was more threatening than how it had spoke before. Just say, I am looking for bad people. And this is going to be a social encounter, which is the first we've done this season, and it's a little new to some of our players, and maybe to some of the people watching too. So just to give you an idea of how social encounters, this is one of our homebrew systems. It kind of works similarly to combat encounters. You get a turn, you have initiative, which you trade off with active initiative, which means when your turn's done, you can choose who to pass it to next. And you can take an action and a bonus action. I'll pop this up in Roll20. If you need any help, you can just role play, and I can say, well, that sounds like this. Roll me this, and we can kind of work it out together. But I think I want to start off with. Let's start off with since they just interjected with Dia, as this giant moves forward, now staring directly, intensely at you.
Okay. Cool. I wasn't ready for you to start with me. I thought Akasha
That's okay.
was
We
gonna
can
go
trade.
first.
Yeah, no, we can totally trade. Let's check in with Akasha. Because the giant was looking at Akasha, and
Yeah,
then
I feel
Dia.
like Dia interrupted the flow, so
Yeah.
it's
So
Akasha's turn.
Akasha, you're standing at the front here, and this giant's attention is turned towards you and to Dia. What's Akasha doing?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Akasha is under immense stress, and as someone who is completely built for that type of a thing, even as she presents confidently, she is extremely prepared and ready. And as she walks up, she completely enters into a fugue state. And everything for her attempt at diplomacy, all of it drops. And she I hear you're looking for bad people.
The giant turns back towards you, Akasha, now above you, looking down directly at you from above. You can smell its breath and says, I'm looking for you.
Why are you looking for me?
My friends are looking for you, my new friend.
If your friends wish to die by my hand, they can bring themselves to me. But I see no promises for you. I see no hope for you. If you intend to take me, what happens is not up to me.
Christina, do you think that do you think that the aura that Laguerre is giving off is intimidating? Do you think it's trying to back the giant down, or do you think it's trying to incite the giant to act? What do you think the intention is?
I want to say that she just is daring him to try her.
Okay. I like that. Make me, we'll call this persuasion check. With a convince action.
21.
Whew. That is the extra level of success. That's a high level success. So the giant's going to take damage to his poise equal to your choice of either your intelligence or wisdom modifier, whichever is higher.
Intelligence.
Okay. What's that? What's the modifier? What's the bonus you have there?
2.
2? Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so we will say that the attempt to incite works, and there's another rumble. Ebo and Dia, you see this as well. It's not painful necessarily, Akasha, but the giant reaches out with a and a hand, attempting to scoop you up into its palm and raise you up off the ground. Does Akasha resist?
Akasha lowers her head, says, "You will find yourself as prey to my every whim this day. No harm you seek to do to me will go forth successfully." And she's going to use enthralling performance. So he needs to succeed on wisdom saving throw 14.
14. All right. I love that.
Stick to what you're good at, kid.
There's a moment where the giant stops. Are you in his hand at this point, or does this happen before he reaches you?
I'd like to think that, like, as he started lifting me up was when I started to do it.
All right. Yeah, so maybe you're only like 5 feet off the ground in his palm at this point, and his hand stops. But he rolls a 15. He saves versus the enthralling, but it does affect him. Is there a secondary effect for that? Does it do anything else if he succeeds?
If a target succeeds on its saving throw, the target has no hint that you tried to charm it.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was my next question. So he stops, even though the enthralling attempt isn't successful. You make good music. I like music.
Do you like music more than your new friends?
He doesn't answer that with anything more than just sort of like moan in the back of his throat. I want to pass the initiative off to one of the other players and let them join in. So, Christina, you get to choose. Do you want to pass it to Ebo, or do you want to pass it to Dia?
Ooh. I'm gonna go with Dia. I want to see the reaction.
Yeah. So Dia, this giant's attention was turned towards you for a moment and then turned back towards Akasha, and you witness this entire interaction. She's 5 feet off the ground right now. What do you want to do? And just to clarify too, if you're reading through the rules, we're doing our new version of a quick social encounter. So everything moves a little bit faster. It's just one action at a time.
Dia, as the giant's attention turns away from her, is going to use the opportunity to stealth past it and go and see what is going on down the road, since it is very focused. And she can turn around and do something if Akasha ends up getting smushed. But she's curious who told him to watch for bad guys, because if she can figure that out, then she's going to know who a bad guy is.
Yeah.
So I'd like to use my movement and basically use a stealthy action. Is on the intrigue, but using it to her advantage.
Yeah, totally. Roll me a stealth check. And are you going? So imagine to your left is this sort of bramble forest, like dead hedges, thorny hedges. They look like skeletons sticking out of the sand. That's what's to the left of the road. To the right of the road are these obsidian cliffs that are rising, and then beyond the giant is a descent. The road dips down into a gorge and into shadows that way. Is that where he is heading?
Yeah, she would be pushing that way. I think whichever way the giant's back to is the way she's going to go around. If that takes her via brambles, she's going via brambles. I don't think she's going to loop out like really massively far. It's just a subtle sidestep. Walk as if you belong and keep going.
Yeah. Roll me a stealth check.
All right. 13.
Okay.
And I don't think I have anything that will help, unfortunately.
So the giant doesn't notice you, but you notice several of the gladiators just kind of turn towards you. They don't stop you. If Ebo or Akasha, if you have a wisdom, or if you have a perception of at least 3, you'll notice. But you're able to continue to the edge of the road where it descends. Or how are you looking down into the darkness?
With my eyes?
She
will... Yeah, she just does it out of habit. She like swings that lantern forwards. Just out of habit, up goes the lantern, because that's what you do with lights.
All right, roll me a perception check.
Even though the lantern has been very bad today. Get in the bin. Perception. 7. Michael, give me my dice back.
No.
He's holding on to him now. Yeah, I mean, you shine the light into the darkness down the gorge, and it stretches a little ways. You don't see anything yet. You could continue on your next turn to descend even further, like start to go down into the gorge and hold out the light and continue to look if you'd like. But you don't see anything immediately. You have made it past the giant, though. He's not noticed you.
I think she will go just slightly beyond that dip, so she's, like, in terms of eyesight, the giant being taller will be able to see her, but the others will maybe lose sight of her as she goes just down towards the gorge.
Okay. So you descend, and we'll come back to you in the gorge on your next turn. What about Ebo?
As Akasha is speaking and singing and trying to entice the giant, I think Ebo is going to try and appeal to its like other side of like trying to be caring. Ebo has socialized around giants and half giants a lot, so Ebo says,
If I may, who is your new friends? Might you introduce us or tell us their names?
Then he looks away from Akasha down to you, Ebo, still holding Akasha in his palm.
mm-hmm.
And he says, they would be angry if I told you. It is all right, small friend. I have the bad person. I will take her to them.
If I may, you said we're friends, so if we are friends and I care about you, might you tell me your other friends, please?
And I'm gonna see if I could use my savvy to add to my politics modifier, so to try and get more information from said giant.
So you can add once per encounter with your savvy feat. You can add your politics modifier to the result of any intrigue action. Would you say this is like a fast talk? Would you say this is convince?
Yeah, it's
fast talk might be to convince. Yeah, because you're appealing to his good nature. You're not trying to trick him.
Exactly. If he's looking for bad people and I'm not a bad person and I'm his friend and he has friends, let me know your friends. It's the Twitter you might know, you should follow. That's what I'm trying to do with this giant.
Cool. Roll me a, in that case, roll me a persuasion check and add to that number your politics modifier.
Okay, persuasion. There we are. And let's see what I got. Oof, but my politics modifier is going to be, wait for it, so 11 total.
11 total. That is like a simple success. So that reduces his poise by 1
Mhm.
till the end of the encounter. So he considers it for a moment and he says, no, I cannot afford to lose my new friends. You should stay away, little friend. Go back.
Well, the problem is you also have one of my friends with you right now, and so, I think I would like to join you wherever you're going.
You can join me. I have not eaten in several days. Or you can go.
Oh,
And
Go ahead.
this is an intimidate action, and
Okay.
he's using his ability to reduce his current poise, and you can see that, like, even though he seems confused and he's considering, like, he starts to get angry again, like his mood shifts rapidly, and he reduces his current poise by 2
Mhm.
and adds 5 to his intimidate roll.
Okay.
So that is going to be 26. What's your maximum poise? What's your current poise for your character?
10.
10. All right, so that is going to reduce your poise by 6.
So down to 4 or 2 6.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Down to 4.
Got
Down
it.
to 4. And you can see his other hand is starting to slide along the silt in the road towards you, Ebo.
Forgive me. I'm so sorry.
And I'm just gonna like back off slowly, but keep an eye out on Akasha.
All right, let's go to Akasha again. Akasha, you're still being held in the palm. He's not raised the palm up. He's not like wrapped it around his hand around you. You've witnessed this interaction with Ebo.
Not a fan of being held. I said I'm not a fan of being held.
But I have to.
So do I. And I'm going to clap my hands and cast Thunderwave.
Excellent. Excellent. The strongest social encounter move is Thunderwave.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here.
Definitely went to Don's School of Intrigue. Switched combat.
It's true.
I want to battle.
You know, it's a giant does have a very high constitution, but Thunderwave can still be effective. Let's see here.
It's a big boy.
Yes, he is a big boy. Giants and Dark, you know, this giant's probably about 40 feet tall. He's a big boy. So he'll take half damage, and although he's not pushed, I would be happy to say that it pushes Akasha out of his hand, if you would like that.
Yes, please.
How do you imagine Akasha falls as you create this thunderous sound that goes out in all directions, And he pulls back his hand and slowly kind of shakes it for a second, surprised.
I like to think that on the waves of the blast, and it come back down to the ground. Just a little bit of it, thunder just billowing around. Yes, very Thorish.
I love it. Are you continuing to be aggressive, or are you saying anything? Like, what else are you doing, Akasha?
I wouldn't say it was necessarily aggressive to begin with. I believe that I was being held in a position that I chose not to, and I defended myself. There's no need for further action. Are my answers to your satisfaction?
Yeah. Do you want to roll me maybe an intimidation check?
How high is she right now?
She was only like maybe 5 feet up in the air.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so she wouldn't like fall very far. She just
I didn't
kind
know
of
if the
blew
giant was like this
gracefully.
or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, he's like bent down to the ground, like his head's
Cool.
real low.
So dumb right now. 23.
That's really good. What is your... No, that's going to be enough. Yeah, so this is successful. Even though you didn't deal a lot of damage, you have won this intrigue, which means that you basically get to make a point, and the giant has to act generally the way that you are trying to get them to act. So, Akasha, what is it that you want to convince the giant of? What course of action do you want them to take?
I would like you to leave, and on your way out, tell me who you're working for, who your friends are.
He sort of looks around nervously. Ebo, roll me an insight roll.
That is going to be a 24.
Oh wow, yeah, you're all killing it tonight with these dice rolls. Ebo, you recognize that it seems like he's snapped out of a haze of sorts. Like maybe his trigger had been turned on, and whatever Akasha's done snapped him out of his trigger momentarily. Okay. And he pulls back slowly. He doesn't stand up to his full height, but he sort of sits up. He looks down at his hand, which he sort of flexes very slowly, and he says, "I'm so sorry. The snakes took my friends. They made me stand here. They knew you were coming. I did not mean to hurt anyone. I will go. I'm so sorry."
Did
And
he
he starts
mention
to stand up.
Did he mention who his friends were, or the person who influenced them? Was it the snakes? You said.
That's the suggestion. Yeah, that's probably the inclination in his response. He said the snakes took his friends and made him wait here.
Friend, do you have any place to go? Are you just stranded out here?
Oh, I have my island. I will go. But I'm all alone there now.
Oh, if you want, there's other people like you, at the village I used to live at. If you want, I can tell you directions, and they will welcome you.
They would welcome me at your village?
Yes, quite.
Do they have a lot of food there?
Oh, yes, they do, but
Eat a lot of food.
sure. As long as you promise to work and help around, we can feed you.
You can tell he's like looking down to try to consider whether or not he thinks this is a trick. But Ebbo's being generous. Ebbo's been generous. So I think there's a moment where he nods his head and he just says, I could use better friends.
Yes,
And I just... Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I tell him the general direction of where to go and how far, and I say,
you see the flag, right there? Look for the similar one, when you get there. They should be very welcoming.
He squints down and he lowers a large finger towards you. Holds out in front of you. It's larger than, like you could take it both hands like this probably. Thank you, little friend. I will work hard. I'm a hard worker.
Oh, I'm sure you are. Thank you for seeking opportunity. We will take care of you, and we are very glad for your contributions.
Farash,
The giant stands up.
Giant over the rise.
He kind of like waves back. He doesn't even know. He can't even see you. He has bad eyesight and it's dark. He waves back over his head and he kind of holds his hands together, rings them, and he begins lumbering through the brambled wood off to the side of the road so he doesn't step on any of the soldiers, any of the other people. But like you can see all of the nobles, all the servants, all the guards, they watch him lumber past everyone.
The code was, where are the snakes? Because no one has asked where these bad guys are. I mean, good guys.
Roll me another perception check, Dia. The giant lumbers away, which would be witnessed by Horsun. I think this is probably like when Horsun and Merula look over the edge. This is what they see: the giant like moving past, leaving the caravan, mumbling one more time, "I'm so sorry, friends." And meanwhile, down in the gorge, you call back and then you cast the light forward, and the flame flickers, and the light changes color a little bit again into that lighter blue. You still don't see anything, just darkness all around you. You can hear a sound ahead of you. It sounds like weeping, but you don't know from whom or from what.
She calls back, because in my mind she was still reaching with her ears, keeping an ear out for Akasha getting smushed, just in case she had to go and do something. And her attention moves back forward as the light catches her eye. Another sense is kind of stirred, and then the weeping reaches her ears. And she takes a deep breath in and closes her eyes, and she wants to listen more closely to this weeping, really focus in on it. Because it's strange, something weeping in the darkness. She's just heard a story of a giant whose friends were taken by snakes, maybe? Snakes making him do something. And I think her ears ring slightly from the thunder wave that Akasha had unleashed, because listening closely to loud concussion is probably not a great thing. But it will slowly focus in. I rolled a whole 7. No, 9. It was not much better. Whole 9 done on my perception that you asked me to roll. Michael and I are no longer friends. We're splitting up. Band's over.
My dice now.
Roll me, Charlie, an intelligence saving throw. You close your eyes in the darkness. There's another cold wind that moves past, just for a moment.
14.
You, focusing, closing your eyes, are able to sense through the illusion of the weeping. And for a moment, you touch another mind. Has Dia trained in the defense of the mind? Is she capable of handling these kinds of threats?
Dia is relatively well acquainted with psionics and tricks of the mind. So I think she would be relatively capable of some defense.
Oftentimes in Dark Sun, when your mind is being attacked, the way that you defend is you imagine a safe place, something that you can control, something that you can change the land to suit, and the people or the creatures that are there to suit your needs, to protect you. And it's on the one trying to enter to break through what you create, what you imagine. What do you imagine is the sort of mental fortress that Dia would create for herself as she realizes that something's trying to get inside of her mind?
I think as she feels the push, she smirks, and it's that "welcome to my mind palace, bitch." And essentially, they walk through a labyrinth of mirrors and colored glass. And if we were to pan out of it, they walk through the lantern that she made. It's a network of metal and glass, but they are so in it that it warps perception as they pass through. But in the center of it is that flickering flame.
And you can see the shadow of the shape that's slithering through the mind, the maze that you've created. It's a woman wearing strange but beautiful garbs. It's these robes that have like angular shoulder blades that stick outward, layers and layers of different colors, a few colors that you've never seen before, that don't even register in your vocabulary of what color is, that shimmer against the ghost flame that's reflecting off of the mirrors in your mind. From the upper body, this beautiful imperial looking woman, but the lower body is a large slithering snake that's worming its way through your mind, getting lost, not quite finding its way, and then you lose it for a second. It disappears, and as you realize the presence has disengaged with your mind, you see painted in what looks like blood on one of those mirrors in your mind words. They simply say, "We should speak soon." And then you're back in your body, in the dark, in the gorge.
She turns her head slowly, eyebrow cocked towards the flame. "You have too many friends." And she pushes back up over the rise to see what has happened to Akasha and the older gentleman that she doesn't know, and the rest of the group.
As you leave the gorge behind and approach back up to the top, the ghost flame in your lantern flickers again and changes back to its normal color, and you rise back into the light with your camp out beyond. But that's where we're going to end our episode for tonight, with everyone coming back together. Yay! Good job. Thank you all very much. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed getting to see some new character interactions, characters who haven't gotten to really have scenes with each other before, see some new facets of some characters, get to do some fun encounters, and learn a little bit more about our story. So, as always, thank you to the moderators in chat who watch after us, keep our chat clean and fun. Thank you to everybody who's watching live, everybody who's watching on YouTube or listening on podcast. We really love it when you let us know what you think. Send us a comment on social media or reply if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know what you really enjoyed about the episode. It means a lot to us. And as always, thank you to the wonderful cast here. I love getting to play with all of you. I have a lot of fun every single time we do this, and I'm really, really excited about next week. Let's go around and give everyone a chance to say hello. Let us know a little bit about who you are, what you do, where we can find you, anything you want to say, and start with Charlie.
I would like to say sorry to Cord, our tech, for the fact I probably sent him running to find a bleeper button, and who knows if that bleep is going to come in, because welcome to my mind palace. I am super excited to see everyone in action, see Merula, thank you, see Merula kicking some serious sneaky butt along with Horsun, see Akasha, like, major props to Christina for today. That was some amazing politicking and the song, and shout out to Michael for stealing my dice, because this is not the luck dynamic we normally have. And I'm not okay with it. Except I am, because Ebo is amazing and I'm okay with him succeeding at things. Yeah, I'm Charlie. I'm Encounter Roleplay. We play games over there, so if you're not here, come and see what we're up to. And I want to play some more. I'm not ready for you to call it quits on me, done. I'm not ready. I know I wasn't ready for the giant conversation, but I'm not ready for it to end either. Please, can we play some more? Please?
Yes. Next week, though. Next week. I have to think about new ways, new things. Snakes within snakes isn't going to cut it next week. I got to come up with something entirely new. So give me a week. We'll be back to it. Definitely check out Charlie. Everything Charlie does is awesome. Everything everybody here does is awesome. They all do amazing shows. They tons of creativity in different projects. They're all talented in a million different ways, each and every one of them.
What's that thing where you put a duck and a chicken and a turkey? I think we'll be fighting that next.
Turducken.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Turducken, yeah.
Thank you.
That's what we thought. A snake snakin'.
A snake snakin'.
A snake snackin'.
Y'all, we're not too far away from Thanksgiving, and that's wild.
Yeah.
I don't want a snake giving. I do not.
Anyway.
I think I would be great. I don't know. I've never eaten snake. I can't say I have no basis for saying that. Michael, how are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Had a wonderful time. I go by first, just to get this out, I go by Michael Crits everywhere, Michael Sinclair II, and you can find me now at Faeforge Academy, the podcast that releases every Friday. We're doing some Mage Hand press. Yep, dark matter stuff in between, interlaced with the regular Faeforge Academy campaign. And this was an awesome session. I haven't done any like political boys gameplay in my tabletop RPG career, so this was really fun and interesting. I finally got to be in a game with Christina and hear her pipes going, and that was super cool. And this whole cast, and just seeing Horsun or Bill and Sam interact with each other. Just a great cast and great chemistry, and just super happy to be here. Falling in love with Ebo already, and this has just been really fun. I'm looking forward to next week.
Ditto. And I like that Ebo convinced the giant to go join his village. I think that's great. I feel very or it's only 2 sessions in. I'm very personally invested in Ebo's village, just so you know. I really hope. I have a lot of high hopes for it. And also excited to hear Feyforge Academy. You're doing Conspiracy in Stars, which is an adventure that I wrote and Charlie wrote part of as well. Very excited to see that in podcast form, right? Did I spoil something?
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's great.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to hearing it. But yeah, thank you very much. I love Ebo. I'm looking forward to finding out a lot more about him as well. Let's go down to Sam. Hey, Sam.
Hi. Well, I'm Sam, and when I'm not fighting snakins, you can find me at Tchaikovsky on Twitter and on role-playing and video game streams on my channel and throughout the Twitchernet. So if you want the schedule of all of the things that I do, best way to find that is twitch.tv/Delevely, DELEVELY. And I'm a rogue here and throughout the internet.
Very good rogue. I really enjoyed, I know Michael said so too, but I did enjoy the interaction, the first sort of interaction between Merila and Horsun. I thought that was super fun. Really enjoyed this sort of side adventure there.
I didn't think my little political kid would just like immediately be like, hey, fight buddy, you want to go do some murders? But this is what we have, and I'm looking forward to the development of that friendship forged in snake blood.
I'm here for it. Bill, speaking of, great job today, buddy. How are you doing?
Ooh, man, this was a breath of fresh air. Like I feel like I'm not gonna sleep. Like I am invigorated. This was fucking dope. So hover your fingers over that bleep button, or yep. Like I don't know, man. Like everybody. Like I saw this and. Like I like to predict stuff, so like everything that I got from everybody's character today, I'm like, oh my god, that'd be so cool if so right, I am horny for justice. If you like internet stuff, you could follow me at Bill of the Forest. I'm a fan of brevity, and everyone was great, and that's it.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you for everything. Christina, I loved the development with Akasha today, right from the beginning. I loved some of the things. I liked the voices that she was working on and like how that grew throughout the episode. It was a really cool little arc from beginning to end. And I really, really dug it. How are you doing?
I'm great, John. Thanks for having me. Just trying it on for next week. You never know what's gonna happen. Am I supposed to say stuff now?
Yeah, say some stuff if you want.
Oh, cool. Hi, my name is Christina Ariel, KRYSTINA ARIELLE, and you can find me on the internet. I am currently playing this fine lady, Akasha, and her other personality, Laguerre, as well. And you can also find me on Dimension 20, where I play Barbarella Sarsaparilla Gangland. So if you like characters named Bob, holla at me. And I really hope that you guys are enjoying this story as much as I am. It's really fun to play in a big sandbox with all my friends. And they don't tell me to take my toys and go home. So it's super fun. And I hope you guys are enjoying what we're doing. And I can't wait to see where we go next. And I didn't have to stab a giant.
Once again, thank you, everybody. I also want to shout out our sponsors while we're here, Dark Dice, Wormwood Gaming, Level Up Dice, for making it possible for us to keep doing what we're doing and share these stories with you. The best way you can support us and help us continue to do what we're doing is to go check out our links down below and get some awesome things from amazing companies that are making incredible dice, boxes, all different kinds of things. Dark Dice is a podcast, fantastic podcast. If you enjoy, dark fantasy actual plays, I think you would enjoy it quite a bit. So that's it for us. I'm Donathan Fry, your Dungeon Master here. Can't wait to be back here again next week. If you want to find me online. I do other things, but mostly my heart is in Dark Sun with my friends. So have a good night, everybody, and take care of yourselves.